Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, we're going to react to a winter soldier who OD'd on meth and became unkillable. I mean, what? First of all, how did he even get his hands on meth? Like, on the battlefield? Like, was it going around? Like, were there soldiers who, were kind of like double dipping, earning a bit of money on the side by dealing on the battlefield, or was it actually given to them by their, commanding officers? Like, I need to know, like, what the heck is going on here?
Military Special Forces guys doing meth while skiing. Did I get your attention? Today we're talking about Imo Koivunen, the Finnish Special Forces soldier that took his entire unit's supply of crank and then proceeded to troll the Soviets and himself for 2 weeks about it. Before this video gets too far off the rails, we do have a sponsor, and that sponsor is We The People Holsters. They probably have the best quality to price ratio for any holster company on the market. Here's mine. It came with the clip and in the fancy gridline Kydex, and it cost $57, which is like half of what any other company was going to charge you. If you wanted to check them out, I'll have a link and a discount code down below. Let's get to this story. March 18th, 1944, Imo and his friends, a small group of Special Forces Finnish soldiers, have just finished conducting a 3-day-long ski patrol and are returning back to base when they are ambushed by an entire platoon of Soviet soldiers. They have nowhere near enough men to fight back. They have to retreat and get away. In order to do so, they go off the beaten path and attempt to blaze their own trail through unpacked snow. Imo, as fate would have it, would be the point man, having to do the majority of the work as far as beating down the unpacked snow goes. Now, they've been out skiing for 3 days straight. Everybody's exhausted, but the level of work that Imo is having to dish out is almost unbearable, and he's unable to set a pace that is going to allow them to escape. And the Soviets are catching up. So Imo decides to take the high road, reaches into his pocket and pulls out a bottle, and inside of that bottle is all of his and his buddy's supply of Pervitin. Imo had been given all of it because everybody knew that Imo didn't care for taking Pervitin, and this meant that Imo would keep it safe and nobody else would dip into it when they weren't supposed to. And if you don't know, Pervitin is the German miracle drug that came out in 1938, also known as meth. And just to be clear, this isn't like Jesse Pinkman cooking it in the back of a van, putting chili powder in it. This is high-quality pharmaceutical-grade nose torque, okay? This is inhalable horsepower, and this man's about to take some.
You're goddamn right.
So Imo pops off the lid, and he wants to dump a single pill into his hand, which is erect.
Man, Breaking Bad for me, top 5. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, top 5 show ever. Has to be. What do you guys think? Do you agree?
Recommended dose. The problem is the Pervitin has been sitting in his pocket, half of it warm against his body, the other half getting cold against the outside of his jacket, and it is now congealed into one gigantic meth nugget, and the whole nugget falls into his mitten. He's unable to break off a singular piece because, well, he has mittens on and he doesn't have the dexterity, so he says, fuck it, and eats the entire nugget of meth, which was roughly 30 pills at one point. Okay, fast forward like 45 seconds. Imo feels incredible. He is a new man. He has gone from dragging ass to tripping balls, and he has had a life-altering revelation that he's been put on this planet to do 2 things and 2 things only, and that is to outrun the Soviets and steal catalytic converters, and those aren't even going to be invented for like another 35 years. So guess what we're doing? We're outrunning these Soviets. This man begins blazing a path through unpacked snow quicker than anybody ever has, ever. And the Soviets are just watching these guys take off like a rocket, like...
They've gone to plaid.
Over the course of the next hour, they managed to outrun the Soviets so bad that they just gave up. So they finally stopped.
So what does meth actually do? Like, is it some kind of like... Is it basically like caffeine, but just times 1,000? So it's just like energy. Is that what it is?
They regrouped. They wanted to see if anybody had been shot. They wanted to make sure everybody was doing okay before they carried on with their mission and journeyed back home. At that point, Imo did not sit still. He is pacing, he's walking around, he's talking to himself, and that's when his buddies realized, oh boy, Imo is higher than draft pussy on a fucking extension ladder. We gotta do something. So they decide it's probably a good idea to take away all of his ammunition and his knife so he doesn't hurt himself or somebody else. So they take the ammo away from him, they turn around, they go to put it in somebody else's backpack so they can carry it, turn back around, IMO is fucking gone. Fast forward an unspecified amount of time later, and IMO wakes up, looks around, has no idea where he is. You see, IMO had blacked out. And when I say blacked out, I don't mean he laid down and fell asleep. I mean he proceeded to ski 62 miles in a random direction and then laid down and fell asleep. And he is now just waking up, realizing that he has no recollection of which direction he went or came from, and he has no idea where he is. At this point, a Soviet soldier hops out from behind a tree and begins shooting at IMO. IMO panics, gets to his feet, grabs his gun, lifts it, fires at the Soviet soldier, click, fuck. His friends had taken all of his ammunition. So he grabs his empty gun and throws it at the Soviet soldier. It hits him and he explodes into a pile of snow. IMO, what the fuck? Looks up, oh, it was just a tree branch covered in snow the whole time. He is now hallucinating. So, not really knowing what else to do, he straps his skis back on and proceeds to ski around looking for his friends or anything, really. And after an hour or two, thank God, he sees his friend's camp off in the distance and they have a fire going. It's all gonna be okay. We're good. He's gonna be saved. So IMO takes off skiing towards the camp. He's skiing. IMO skis right into the middle of the camp. Cool guy power slide. Psh. Friends, did you miss me? He looks at his buddies. His buddies look at him. He looks at his buddies. Those aren't his buddies. Those are the Soviets. Shit. Time to go. IMO takes off again. The Soviets attempt to chase him for a little bit, but I mean, the man is basically tweakers on ice right now. You've got no chance at actually catching him. So IMO then proceeds to ski until he's tired, and then he lays down and goes to sleep just on the ground outside. He wakes up, it's dark out, he can't see anything, and he realizes, hey, I'm hungry. So he gets a fire going, and then he walks around grabbing some pine buds and leaves and whatever else he can find, sticking it in his canteen cup, grabs some snow, puts that in there, cooks it over the fire, and kind of mashes it all together in this like pine bud stew gruel type thing. He eats it, he thinks it's fucking delicious, one of the best meals he's ever had because, well, meth. Then he goes back to bed. Wakes back up, still full of energy, decides that he's gonna go look for his buddies more. He skis around, he skis and he skis all day long, and then he finds a cabin. He walks up to the cabin, grabs a doorknob. It's real. It's not a hallucination. So, next thing, he strips all the copper out of it. No, I'm just kidding. He opens the door because it's unlocked, because this is a tradition in this part of the world where there's, you know, people could freeze to death. You just leave the cabin unlocked in case somebody is in IMO's situation. You don't want them to freeze to death. So, IMO...
That's a nice tradition, you know, like it's very compassionate. Like you would hope that the people that take advantage of that and steal anything of value in there, that the people that go in there to spend the night.
Goes inside, he gets a fire going. Now, because of the meth, IMO elects to light the fire in the middle of the cabin on the floor rather than in the fireplace because, you know, obviously. He then proceeds to go to bed, and all throughout the night, the fire keeps getting hotter and hotter, so he keeps like shimmying away from it and shimmying away from it over and over again. And then finally, his back hits a wall, and he wakes up and realizes that the entire cabin is on fire. So he's like, shit. So he gets up, goes outside the cabin, puts his back against the wall of the outside of the cabin, and then goes back to sleep. Meth. So IMO wakes up again, it's dark out, he hears growling off in the distance as there's a pair of yellow eyes.
I mean, surely at this point he's not still high on the meth. Surely not. Huh? Like, how long does it last? But then again, he did take a lot, didn't he?
Staring at him. He looks behind him, the cabin completely burnt to a crisp as these eyes keep getting closer and closer, and there's growling, and out of the shadows leaps Hugh Jackman. Wait, what the fuck? So, sorry, a Wolverine, not the Wolverine. A Wolverine, still, I mean, it's better, but not a lot better, okay? This thing is 65 pounds of teeth, claws, fur, and bad attitude. And this thing will absolutely kill IMO if IMO lets it. IMO is now in a fight for his life, so he pulls out his knife and begins fighting a fucking Wolverine while tripping out on meth. He is kicking and punching and stabbing this Wolverine, and he finally gets on top of the Wolverine as he straddles it and plunges his knife into the Wolverine's chest as the life from the Wolverine leaves its body and it falls limp to the ground. At that point, IMO remembers, wait a minute, my friends took my knife. He looks at his knife. That's not his knife. That's his compass, and now it's broke.
No.
Shit. I mean, also kind of cool, though, because he just killed a Wolverine with a compass. He looks down at the dead Wolverine. He's sitting on top of a log. He had hallucinated the entire thing.
Goodness gracious. Oh, my God. I mean, this is the perfect, like, never take meth story.
Again. Meth. So Imo gets up off the log that he just killed, looking around, not knowing what to do. In the darkness of night, he sees a fire off in the distance. So he straps on his skis and starts making his way towards that fire. And he's skiing, and he's skiing, and he's skiing all night long, and he's going, and he's going, and this fucking fire is not getting any closer. It's almost like it's running from him, and he keeps going towards it longer and longer, and finally dawn breaks, and Imo realizes that he's been chasing the North Star thinking it was a fire for like the last 8 hours. Because meth. So now it's morning. Imo still has no idea where he's going, so it's like, well, better find some copper. I mean, my friends. He's got to find his friends, so he just starts skiing around looking for any signs of human life at this point. And he's skiing, and he's skiing, and he's going, and he's going. And he finally comes across this abandoned German forward observational base, and he starts making his way towards it. The problem with this was, whenever the Germans abandoned something in World War II, they usually booby-trapped it, and that's what happened here because Imo skis over a landmine, blowing up his foot, throwing him to the ground, and Imo's like, that's it, I'm dead for sure. There's no way I'm making it out of this. And he just lays there. We have no idea how long he laid there. He said he laid there for a week, but that dude's high as a kite on meth. He could have been there for 45 minutes. We have no idea. But he lays there and he lays there, literally too high to die. And then he just gets bored and he's like, fine, I'll live. And he gets
Too high to die. It sounds like a t-shirt slogan or something.
up and he starts walking back towards the base again. He makes it all the way to the building, you know, grabs a doorknob. Well, at least the base is real. The landmine sure as fuck was real. The base better be real. The base is real, grabs a doorknob, opens the door. That's booby trap 2. Blows up in his face, yeets him 30 yards the other direction as he lands flat on his back with the door on top of him. And he's like, okay, now for sure I'm gonna die. There's no way I'm making it out of this. I'm done. And he just lays there. He completely gives up and he just waits for death to come get him. And he's laying there and 1 day passes and 2 days pass and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7 days pass and he's still just laying there like this is...
How is he alive at this point? How hasn't he starved to death? Like surely a week with no food and no water?
Taken forever. And then finally some Finnish soldiers come up and are like, hey, you want some help? And he's like, holy shit, yeah, that'd be great. So the Finnish guys start making their way over to him, and then one of them steps on a fucking landmine. And then the other 2 Finnish soldiers are like, well, we can only save one of you, and we're gonna save the guy that we came with. If we get this guy saved, we'll let him know to come back and save you later. Peace, goodbye. And just left him laying there again.
Damn.
So he thinks to himself, maybe if I can survive a couple more days, I might actually make it out of this. So he starts trying. He gets a little fire going next to him. He starts melting snow in his canteen cup to drink water to hydrate. A Siberian jay at some point lands next to him. He takes a ski pole and smacks it to death, pulls the Siberian jay over to him, grabs it, and just Ozzy Osbourne's this bird raw, just eats the whole thing, trying to get any amount of calories inside of him. And then after 3 more days, they come back and they save Imo, and he completely blacks out. Imo comes to, he's in a Finnish hospital where he's informed that he has been missing for 14 days and they found him 250 miles from where he originally departed his friends. He now weighs a mere 95 pounds and has a resting heart rate currently of 200 beats per minute, 14 days after taking all of the meth.
Jesus, so he's still tripping. He's still tripping. How didn't he have a heart attack?
So Imo proceeds to do the logical thing, makes a full recovery, and lives a long, happy life until passing away at 71 in 1989 because he's Finnish and that's just how they get down. Yeah, if you're not picking up what I'm trying to tell you, this man actually may have seen Star Wars, the original series, in theater, okay? Could you imagine him taking his kids to the movie theater just being like, we didn't call it the Force back in my day. We called it Pervidin. Seriously, it's pretty funny that the only 2 Finnish soldiers that I know off the top of my head are Imo and Simo Hoya. Simo, deadliest sniper of all time, over 500 kills. Imo, the most unkillable tweaker ever. Don't worry, this story keeps going. Meth. Imo's son was interviewed about his dad, to which he said that his dad never really talked much about his time in service, but there was one point later in Imo's life when he decided to write in to a local newspaper that was having a competition for who had the best, craziest military story ever. And he wrote his story down, mailed it in, and he was informed, congratulations, you've got second. How the fuck did this guy get second place with this story? Did Simo Hoya enter the same competition? Because that's the only logical explanation, other than that there was some Karen on the judge board that was like, I don't know, this story seems a little too unbelievable if you ask me. Bah. To which my argument is, look at him. Do you think that guy's lying about this story? Do you really? Because homeboy looks like he's about to hit a T intersection and go straight, okay? That's not hair product. He just moves that fucking fast now. There's no way he's lying about this story, and I'm legitimately mad he didn't win this fucking competition for some reason. Okay, this story...
I believe him.
Is getting out of hand. We need to end this video. I guess, in conclusion, it's important to bear in mind with how incredible this story is that IMO is the exception and not the example. You should not do drugs because they are in fact bad for you. Okay?
Drugs are
don't
bad,
do drugs.
okay?
Also, don't fight the Finnish in winter in Finland where they have home field advantage. It's just a bad time. Anyways, thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out. So IMO decides to take the high road, and if you don't know,
The outtakes.
fucking stupid.
I've been there, brother. Man, that was fun. Great story. How did he make it? How did he survive that long without food? Like, that's the only question I have. A week with no food, especially if, you know, you've taken all that meth. Wouldn't that, like, all of the movement that he did, the skiing, the tens and tens of miles of skiing, wouldn't that place such a huge demand for food on his body? So for him then to just lie there for a week without any food, how did he survive? I need to know. I need more, like anybody who's familiar with the story, like more details of it, put them in the comment section because I need to know. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.